Welcome back. Well, we have taken a look at Etsy as a venue for selling our thrift store finds, and we've been working on that on and off for about 6 months. And I thought now would be a good time for us to take a look at eBay, especially with the holidays coming up. And holiday time is a bigger market on eBay. So we'll take a look at that when we come back. Yes, we're going to look at eBay. But first, how about we take a look at what our friends Senor de Fonseca and Senor Carolino have to say. And for those of you who have not had any familiarity with this book, English as She Is Spoke, it was written in 1855 by two lovely Portuguese gentlemen who spoke not a word of English and did not even have the advantage of an English-Portuguese dictionary, but my goodness, they certainly had a lot of spirit. So today's entry is with a furniture tradesman, so that you know how to have a conversation when you are in the English-speaking world at a furniture store. So here we go. I come to see yours furniture. I have a apartment to furnish. You will find to my store household that you won't. Is it complete, this parlor furniture in damask crimson? Yes, sir. It is composed of 6 armchairs, Twilo chairs, 2 settees, and a sofa. It seems no new to me. Pardon me, it comes workman's hands. Have you some glasses? Which heightness want you its? I want almost 4 feet 6 thumbs wides, over 7 of long. I shall come back to you for to take the measure. I also want 2 beds. How do you like it? I shall choice myself. And let's see, let's do another one. How about the dentist? This should be good. I have the teeth ache. Is it a fluxion or have you a bad tooth? I think that is a bad tooth. Please you to examine my mouth? You have a bad tooth. Will you pull out this tooth? I can't to decide me it, that make me many great deal pain. Your tooth is absolutely roted. If you leave it, shall spoil the others. In such case, draw it. I shall you neat also your mouth, and you could care entertain it clean, for to preserve the mammal of the teeth, I could give you a opiate for to strengthen the gums. Oh my God. I thank you. I prefer the only means, which is to rinse the mouth with some water or a little brandy. It's a wonder they had any teeth at all after that. Okay, I thought we would talk about my friend Karen. Now, I know the name Karen on the internet and social media is sort of shorthand for these like overprivileged, over-entitled women who just push in front of you in the shopping line because they're important. They're Karen and you don't count. Well, my friend Karen is nothing like that. She is a delightful, charming, petite, little, tiny woman with a huge smile and a kind word for everyone. And about 10 years ago, when Karen was in her late 50s, looking at, right down the barrel of retirement coming up, she had 2 thoughts. One, She was not old enough to go pack it in and sit in a rocking chair and do nothing with the rest of her life. And two, she was going to miss that income from her job. Well, she had worked in Colonial Williamsburg. She lives in Williamsburg, Virginia, and she had access to Lang & Wise figurines. These are these cute little house and they're sort of 18th century villages. Colonial Williamsburg is what they were based on. Little house models, and people set these things up at Christmas and do little dioramas and little village scenes, and they have houses and stores and people and trees and whatever. And because she was in Colonial Williamsburg, she had access to the Lang & Weiss figurines back in the 90s. They were very popular. And she sold them sort of as a hobby, part-time, not seriously, on eBay. And she started thinking that maybe eBay was the answer to her concerns about how she was going to transition to retirement, how she was going to make up the income. And she decided she was going to sell Barbies. I have no idea why. I swear, I think it was just some spur of the moment notion that she got, because Karen played with Barbies as a child, but she really didn't know very much about them. And she will admit this. In fact, that's how Karen and I met. One of her very early Barbie listings was for a doll that wasn't Barbie. And I was very active selling Barbies at the time, and I wrote her a little note and told her what the doll was and how I thought she could best market this particular doll. Well, I was half expecting not to hear from her or to get back a very nasty mind your own business email, because sometimes people are touchy about that sort of thing. Occasionally it's because they know what they're selling is not a Barbie and they just as soon not have it pointed out to them. And sometimes it's just, they would just as soon you leave them alone. Karen, however, wrote back and said, "Oh, thank you very much. I would have felt awful if I had sold something that wasn't as I described it and, taken advantage of a buyer. I'm willing to learn anything you're willing to teach me." And so we corresponded, and that's how we met. And within a few years, she was selling a lot more Barbies than I was. A couple years after that, she was one of the biggest Barbie sellers on eBay. And she occasionally dabbled in some other dolls, some dolls that are expensive, good profit margins on those dolls. And at this point, she is transitioning from Barbies over to dollhouse miniatures. And I just checked her feedback just this morning, and she's getting feedback at the rate of over 200 pieces of feedback every month, which probably means she's making at least 400 sales, because my experience is only about half of your sales end up with feedback. So if someone has feedback in the range of, say, 300, it probably represents about 600 in total sales. So she's doing very well. She has made up for that missing income. She is operating her little business out of the guest bedroom in her home, and she has to scoot everything away when the kids come to visit, that sort of thing. But she did this, became a full-time eBay seller, starting off as a hobby seller and going into an area where she really didn't have any particular experience or expertise. And Karen will be the first one to tell you that if she can do it, anybody can do it. She says that all the time. I didn't know what I was doing. I just jumped in. So for those of you who are looking to develop a little business to supplement your income, or if you're looking at retirement, something to sort of extend the income a little or keep yourself busy, eBay is a good opportunity. It is a complete myth, by the way, that you cannot buy and sell and make a profit strictly on eBay. It was one of the things Karen did. When she started off buying and selling Barbies, she would buy a lot of her stuff right on eBay, turn around, separate doll outfits, pull out the good dolls from large lots, clean them up, sell them, properly list them, and she was turning a profit. So she would buy on eBay one day, very same thing she bought one day, the next day she was selling it and selling it at a profit. Can it be done? Karen is proof of that. I used to do that sort of thing all the time too. You get large mixed lots. Now, I'm speaking about Barbies specifically here. Large mixed lots. You take out the valuable items, the dolls you want. A lot of the things in the mixed lot are not going to be particularly valuable. You set them aside, and a month later, that's the mixed lot you're selling. Someone else is buying. And in the meantime, you're making profit on the valuable items you have pulled out of those lots. Would I suggest Barbies to anyone? No, not particularly. But you can do this in almost any category out there. Just find a category that appeals to you, and you can buy your items right on eBay, especially if you can get them in large mixed lots, and pick out the good ones. Over time, you'll become knowledgeable in the field you choose. You will be able to more quickly spot the good bargains and the valuable items hidden in these mixed lots. Absolutely. And it's not difficult. So let's talk about the basics first. As I mentioned, Karen had an eBay account. She had been selling the Lang & Weiss figurines in her eBay account. It was just a regular eBay buying account, the account that you have already, the one that you're using to do your online eBay purchasing from. You do not need a store. Now, Karen has a large store. It's called Karen's Collectibles, by the way, and that's with 2 C's. So look her up, beautiful dollhouse miniatures. And just as an aside, right now, at this moment, she is listing one of the most gorgeous #1 Barbies you'd ever want to see. So if you happen to want to see what a really great #1 Barbie looks like, Karen's Collectibles, 2 C's. Check out that doll. It's beautiful. It was at $1,000 when I last checked, and it will go a lot higher. Barbie buyers are snipers. All the action is in the last few minutes of the sale. So you start off with your regular buying account. You will need a PayPal account. People ask that a lot. They say, do you need a PayPal account? Well, technically you don't. eBay will not require you to have a PayPal account. They do require that you take electronic payments. Now that can be direct with Visa and MasterCard. If you have the facility to do that directly. And that's very easy. You can get a little thing you stick on your smartphone. That's not hard. But as a practical consideration, yes, the overwhelming majority of your buyers are going to want to use PayPal. If you want to sell on eBay, yeah, you really have to, even though technically it's not a requirement. So you have your eBay account, you have your PayPal account. Now it's a question of, what are you going to sell? Do you have to carve out a particular niche for yourself, like vintage Barbies or Fenton glassware? No, not at all. You can sell whatever it is you want, whatever it is you have. When you start selling on eBay, one of the first things you're going to notice is it's super easy. eBay makes this just incredibly easy for you to do. You go into your eBay account and there's a whole section on selling. Sell an item. And you write up your first listing. You write up your first listing with care. That's where you're going to put all of the information that you want your buyers to see again and again and again, the repeat information. Mine, for example, has my information on international shipping, It has my handling time. It's like 24 hours. And, you know, um, if you have less than 10 feedback or whatever, get in touch with me. Um, Little things like that that are going to be in every single listing I put out, sort of your boilerplate information. You write that up carefully, and then you begin your first listing. And let us assume you have a porcelain ashtray. Well, you're going to go into eBay's selling categories, and you're going to start looking at the category you think it will be in. And it's an ashtray, so it's vintage, because people are just not, smoking is no longer a big thing. People are not really making ashtrays anymore. You might want to go into glassware. You might also want to just pull up eBay's search engine and write in ashtray and watch what comes up. And then go over to that left-hand bar. There's a bar running down the side with all kinds of little options, and scroll down. When you get almost to the bottom, you're going to see a little box that says sold listings. Click on that. And then you'll have the listing of sold ashtrays. You go in there and start looking at the ones that got the high prices. You don't want to look at the ashtrays that went for $2.30 or $5.60. You want to take a look at the ashtrays that went for $25, for $30, and take a look at the category that seller used to market their little porcelain ashtray. The way you find the category is you pull up that sold listing, and right under the title, there's going to be a little string of categories. And one category will lead to the other. And it will say something like 20th century vintage, and porcelain, ashtray, etc. And that's the category you're going to use. Use categories that other people have successfully used, categories that have made money for other people. After a while, you're going to see the high selling categories, because remember, eBay has literally millions of sellers, and a lot of them are not experts. They don't know the best way to show off or market their product. They will not be choosing the top categories. So the way you want to find the top categories is based on how much they got for that item. And if that item got $50 because they put it in some category that you might not have thought of, grab that category and run with it. I'm assuming it's appropriate. Maybe they did it because they put it in the adult only section and somebody was confused. It's always possible. But, as long as the category is appropriate, take that category. That is one of the easiest ways to figure out what category your item belongs in. You pick up your item, you look at it and say, if I wanted to buy this item, what would I call it? Put it right in the search engine, go to the sold listings, go to the high-priced items, and pull those categories. You will see a pattern. No two ways around it. I can tell you in something, because I can do the Barbies off the top of my head. The categories you're going to see is dolls and bears, and then Barbie, and then vintage Barbie, and then vintage Barbie pre-1967. And that's where you're going to find that number one Barbie. You're going to find Karen's number one Barbie there because she knows where to put it. You're going to find the top selling dolls there. You might find that same doll selling for a little less because somebody put it in Barbie and didn't put it in pre-1967. And it might have gone in with all the Barbies made since 1959 onward, and the price may have gone lower because it was buried in with other extraneous items. And that's a real thing. I find that I can go online and I can grab very good dolls at very good prices because the seller did not know what they were and did not know where to list them. You don't want to make that mistake. You're going to choose the best category, and that's going to be based on what other people have gotten for their items when they've listed in that category. So that's the start. So now we've got our ashtray and we found the category that's most likely to give us the most money. And we list our ashtray. So what happens when we want to list sale number 2? We go right in there and we click sell a similar item. And we don't have to relist every little thing. We will change our pictures. We will change that little description that we wrote of our ashtray. And let's say, for example, we have a little porcelain dog. We're going to go in, do the same thing, porcelain dog, find out what categories they're selling. That's the category we're going to choose. So we're going to change our category. We're going to change our picture. We're going to change our description, but everything else is going to remain the same. We will not have to redo all of that boilerplate information. Now, that boilerplate information is important because let's say you do not want to sell to China, for example. A lot of people don't. There are a lot of issues in selling internationally, and I'm not picking on the Chinese in particular, but personally, my concern about selling to China is a lack of communication. If I'm selling overseas, I want to be able to communicate with the person I'm selling to. And in any language with a Latin-based alphabet, I can do that, even if I have to do it, in Italian. My Italian is pathetic. It's based on French and Spanish, so it's not really Italian. But I can get a translation program. I can translate my emails for them. I can translate their emails to me, and we can communicate. If it's a Cyrillic alphabet, if I'm dealing with someone who speaks Russian, for example, I could have a major problem because I won't have access to the kind of translation programs I need. And in a pinyin system like Chinese, Japanese, I don't even have letters. I have absolutely nothing I can recognize as an individual letter in my communications. That makes it hard. But for whatever reason, let's say you don't sell to China. You put that in one time. You don't have to redo that every single time you put up your listing. Another difference between selling on eBay and selling on Etsy, which makes selling on eBay a great deal easier, is eBay supplies you with the categories. Once you've found your category, that's it. You don't have to come up with a whole bunch of descriptive words to describe or identify your product. It's in there. That's it. And people searching will either search the category or they will put in that basic descriptor, the same one you used when you were looking for your item and the one you're using when you are describing your item. Vintage porcelain ashtray, 20th century porcelain dog, whatever. That's what it is. So this completely eliminates everything else. You can provide additional information, when it was made, new, pre-owned, whatever, but you don't have to. eBay does not require this. In most cases, if you are saying, for example, I have a 20th century porcelain dog, it implies that it's pre-owned, that it's used, that it's not brand new. So you might feel that you don't want to add that. You might feel very strongly that you want to make sure your international buyers know they need to get in touch with you before placing a bid. Once you put that in the first listing, you click off Sell Similar Item. That comes up. you can save many templates. When you're through with your porcelain, grab one of those listings, save it as a template, and then move on to your paper goods. And then grab another listing when you're through with your paper goods, and that'll be your paper goods template. eBay makes it very, very easy to sell. Writing listings on eBay is something you can do in less than a minute. It's just once you have your templated listing, and you either pull it up on templates or you do what I usually do, which is sell similar. I'll gather all my porcelain stuff together and just one after the other. Very, very easy. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You do not have to create a new listing for every single item, because even though you will in effect be doing that, you can just base it off previous listings. Change it, it goes up, there's your new listing. Grab your template, grab a similar item, pop it up. With Etsy, you really do have to write a new listing for everything. Just you put it up, it's got to be a brand new listing. eBay makes it so much easier. So if you are thinking about selling on eBay and you have an eBay account and a PayPal account already, let's put something up this week. Put up 1 or 2 items, whatever you want, but give this system a shot. Take your item, look up similar items that have sold, base your category on the category of the highest selling items, and list your item there. And remember, if people are doing this successfully, take a good look at what they are doing. Take a look at what their pictures look like. If someone is consistently getting high prices on their items, notice their pictures. If they're doing this, perhaps they're doing it because they're putting up a lot of pictures. Perhaps they're putting up pictures of portions of the item that other people are not photographing, the bottom, for example, or the inside of a vase or whatever. If they're doing it, you do it, because that's how you're making money. And in the meantime, go through eBay's listings in general. Take a look at their categories. See if there are categories that appeal to you, things you might like to trade in. Vintage porcelain, vintage dolls, vintage toy trains. Take a look. Start thinking. Start planning, because we're going to revisit this issue. This is just step 1. We're going to revisit this issue and see if we can't improve our eBay sales and get us to the point where we will want to open an eBay store, just like Karen. And before we go, very, very quickly, I would like to show you some of Karen's miniatures. This is what Karen is doing now, mostly doll houses and miniatures. But I need to do that because I did borrow her life story for us. But remember what Karen always says, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And she's done it. She's been successful. She had no more knowledge or skill than you have, than I have, than anybody has. What she had was a desire to do it. So let's see if we can start harnessing our desires. Have a great day, and I will see you guys tomorrow.